Come here, baby. Come here. Come here. Do you want to be in the video? You do, don't you? You do want to be in the YouTube video. Say hi to everyone. Oh, what a good girl. Hi, baby girl. Hi, baby. What a good
What's
girl.
up, everyone? So the topic of today's video is going to be what to expect and how to prepare for your first powerlifting meet. So I'm kind of going to split it into like 3 sections. So the equipment and clothing that you're going to want to have ready to be on the platform with, your meet day nutrition so you can perform optimally, and any miscellaneous items you might want to bring with you to help the day go along a little bit smoother. So if you've signed up for a powerlifting meet, I'm going to assume you already know the 3 lifts that are performed, the basics kind of throughout the day and some of the rules and stuff like that. So I'm not going to really get into that too much. But like I said, just those 3 things that I just talked about to help you kind of have your best meet day. So a few things I wanted to touch on before we get into this video are some things to expect before meet day begins. So about 2 hours before your meet starts, that's when you'll be able to check in. That is when you will be able to do your equipment check just to make sure that everything that you wear is okay to be on the platform with. And then you'll be able to do your rack heights for squat and bench. So you'll be able to tell them exactly what rack height you want. And then after that, you'll go weigh in. After you weigh in, you will put your squat, bench, and deadlift openers on the scorecard with someone, a ref who's weighing you in the back. You'll have to do all of that in kilograms. So I know a lot of people are used to doing things in pounds, but on meet day, you're going to want to put in all your numbers in kilos. Some meets have 24-hour weigh-ins, but if you're competing USAPL, if you're competing Powerlifting America, or if you're in any IPF affiliate, that won't be the case. They have 2-hour weigh-ins. So that's something to be prepared for. Some basic advice, I would say find yourself a handler for meet day. So a handler is someone who's going to put in your attempts for you. So they'll put in your second and third attempts on every lift. Your handler is someone who's going to help you load and unload weights in the back room so you don't have to overexert yourself on meet day. Your handler is someone who's going to make sure you're on time to go on the platform. They'll be able to tell you how many lifters out you are. A handler is important just to help you just focus on the things you need to focus on meet day, just so you can go onto the platform, hit your lifts, and not worry about anything else. So I would definitely recommend getting a handler for most people. I also would not recommend cutting weight for your first meet. So to be honest with you, this is something I did my first meet, but I also had experience cutting weight in the past. I used to fight, so that's something I knew how to do. If it's your first time, I definitely would not recommend cutting weight during your first meet. Just go out on the platform, have some fun. Don't worry about the weight class you weigh in at. That's just another variable to add to meet day that could potentially throw things off. So I definitely would not recommend cutting weight. Just weigh in wherever you weigh in. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the clothing and equipment that you're going to make sure you want to have for meet day. So there's some required clothing. There's some equipment that you're probably going to benefit from using. But first, I'll start with the clothing. So the first thing you need to worry about is making sure you have a singlet. So everyone has to wear a singlet on the platform. That is one of the rules in powerlifting. They're not really that hard to find. I have an A7 singlet. This is the brand I like to buy a lot of my stuff from, but you can buy lots of different singlets. There are plenty on Amazon for like 20 bucks. These are a little more expensive. I mean, some of them run up to like 100. If you're really feeling like you're dedicated to powerlifting, you can invest in one of these. If not, and you're not sure, always feel free to just buy a cheap one on Amazon. The next thing to consider is deadlift socks. So these are socks that go up to your knees. On deadlift, you have to have socks that go up to your knees or you will not be allowed on the platform. This is due to some people scraping their shins with the bar and bleeding on the bar. Your socks are to protect you as well as to protect the bar and other lifters, just in case you are someone who scrapes the bar up your shins when you deadlift. So that's a really important one to note. I have seen so many people go into meets and they don't have their deadlift socks before deadlift. They're scrambling around trying to either pull their socks up to their knees and seeing if they go that high, or borrowing deadlift socks from people who have already finished deadlifts. Sometimes it's a mess. That is one thing you definitely want to remember to bring is deadlift socks. I know this is a weird one, but underwear. So specifically for men, you can't wear boxer briefs under your singlet. Weird rule, I know, but you have to make sure you have a pair of briefs. I don't wear briefs, so I really only wear them when I compete. For women, this really isn't as big of an issue. And the last thing is just a regular old t-shirt. You have to wear a t-shirt under your singlet on squat and bench. On squat, the bar's on your back. On bench, your back's on the bench, so that's just for like sanitary reasons. If you would like to, you can take your shirt off for deadlift. And if you were competing in raw powerlifting like I am, these are the things you can also use on the platform. So we talk about knee sleeves. So you can wear knee sleeves on the platform. Most people will use those on squat. It's not a requirement, but it's definitely something that's going to help your squat out a little bit. Wrist wraps. So wrist wraps are another thing. A lot of people use those on squat and bench. I think less commonly you'll see some people use them on deadlift. But again, these are totally legal in raw powerlifting. And the last thing, a lifting belt. So in raw powerlifting, you're allowed to have a belt, wrist wraps, knee sleeves when you're on the platform. In equipped powerlifting, there are much more things that you can use. So like squat suits, deadlift suits, bench shirts, knee wraps, stuff like that. But I'm really just talking about raw powerlifting in this video. So these are the things that when you're thinking about the clothing you need and the equipment you should be using on the platform, these are all things you want to consider. Now, as far as equipment is concerned, you're going to want to check to make sure that your federation is approved with some of this equipment. So most belts, knee sleeves, and wrist wraps are going to be approved in USAPL, IPF, IPF affiliates, things like that. But it's a good thing to make sure to check before you actually go onto the platform on meet day. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was meet day nutrition. So I think meet day nutrition is a lot more important than most people realize it is. So you're not going to eat the same way during meet day that you would eat on a normal day. Or at least you shouldn't be. This is not how you should normally be eating. So the things to focus on meet day are making sure you're consuming fast-acting carbohydrates. So in the simplest terms, you want to make sure you're eating quite a bit of sugar, and you want to try to keep the protein and fat to a minimum, because those things are just going to slow down digestion. And really what we want is to have access to those carbs as quickly as we can when we're going out on the platform to lift. So in thinking of some of the things you might want to eat on meet day, things like honey. So honey is a really good one. Honey is easy too, because you can just basically drink it, and you can get a lot of carbs in that way. So when I think of like fruits, like bananas, mangoes, pineapple, those are things that are great to eat on meet day as well. Even though they do have a little bit of fat in them, not a ton, things like bagels are really good to eat, especially if you're eating them with like honey or jam or jelly, things like that. Those are all great foods to eat on meet day. Throughout the meet as it goes on, some things that are good to eat, things like gummy candy or Rice Krispie treats. Rice Krispie treats, again, have a tiny little bit of fat in them, but not much. It's almost all carbs. Now these gummy candies, if you're getting these, or things like Sour Patch Kids, stuff like that, these, if you look at the nutritional label on here, there's no fat, there's no protein, it's all carbs, and it's all sugar. So those are things you're going to be able to use really, really quickly. Now, as much as it's good to eat those things, it's more efficient to even drink those things. So if you have things like Gatorade or Powerade, that's a great way to get fast-acting carbs in your body. Also a good way to stay hydrated. There's sodium, things like that. If you did cut weight or you do feel like you're dehydrated, things like Liquid IV, Pedialyte, those are great as well. So those are some things I would recommend consuming on meet day, making sure you're keeping the protein and the fat to a minimum. If you need those things to feel a little bit more satiated, that's fine, but really trying to consume as many fast-acting carbs as you can on meet day. Another thing that I feel like is great on meet day, especially if it's something that you're using regularly, things like pre-workout, getting a little bit of caffeine in you, is definitely a good thing to have on meet day. The one thing I will say is today is not the day to experiment with a new pre-workout or with foods that you're not normally eating. So on meet day, you want to keep things as normal as possible. So don't experiment with new foods. Don't experiment with a new pre-workout that you don't know how you're going to react to. But really, on meet day, the important thing is to make sure you're getting in as many fast-acting carbs that you can actually use onto the platform. And that's really what's important as far as your meet day nutrition is concerned. So the last thing I want to talk about in today's video is just some miscellaneous items that can help make your first meet day run a little bit more smooth. So chalk and baby powder are the two things that come to mind immediately. So you'll see a lot of people use chalk on their back for squat, helps the bar just feel a little bit more locked into place on your back. You'll also see people use it on their back for bench. So up near the shoulders, helps you lock your shoulders into place a little bit easier on the bench. And some bench pads are a little bit slippery, so it's nice to have that chalk to really just help you dig in and get positioning. And on deadlift, you'll see a lot of people use chalk on their hands, just helps you grip the bar better. You'll also see people use chalk on their hands on squat and bench as well, just to kind of feel a little more locked into the bar. There will probably be a bowl of chalk near the platform on meet day, but you never know how long that chalk's gonna last. You don't know how long it'll take them to replace it with a new block. So I always bring my own chalk to meets. I think it's definitely a great thing to do. It's not super expensive. You can buy a big pack of it. You can buy like 6 blocks of it for $20, and that'll last you forever. So I would definitely recommend bringing chalk. Baby powder is another thing I recommend bringing. So baby powder you put on your thighs for deadlift. So if you're a conventional puller, it's a no-brainer because your hands are outside of your legs. So when you lock out a deadlift, if you don't have baby powder on, sometimes the bar can kind of stick to your thighs. When you have baby powder on, it just slides right up. So baby powder is definitely something I would recommend for conventional pullers. For sumo deadlifters, it works for a lot of people. For some people, they don't like to use it because on a sumo deadlift, when you're locking out, your hands are coming across your thighs. So sometimes people's hands open up, and that causes them to drop the bar. Baby powder is super, super slippery. So I would definitely recommend having a handler put it on for you. If you don't have a handler, a trick I like to use is with baby powder, if you put it on your thigh like this, and then take this end of it and then rub it in to your leg, then your hands aren't touching the baby powder, because if your hands are touching the baby powder, your hands are going to be slippery, you're going to drop your deadlift. So make sure if you're using baby powder, have someone else apply it or do it like I just showed you. And some other things too, things like headphones. So headphones, whether you just want to get locked in, whether you want to zone out, whether you just want to listen to your own music because you don't like the music that's playing there, it's a nice way to control the environment a little bit and just help you have the most success you can have on meet day. So I definitely recommend bringing headphones and even something like a phone charger. You know, things happen. Sometimes your phone isn't as charged as much as you want it to be. You might have someone taking videos for you on your phone, things like that. Just make sure you're bringing a phone charger just in case you have an outlet to charge your phone somewhere. Now that we've gone over everything you need to be prepared for your first meet, the most important thing to remember is go out there, have fun. The reason we compete in powerlifting is because it's fun. It's a great sport. So don't be too hard on yourself. Go out there, do the best you can, and just do what you know you're capable of doing. You're going to have a great day. It's going to be so much fun, and you're probably going to catch that powerlifting bug just like I did. And I'm sure after your first meet, you're going to be signing up for your next one. Just want to say thank you to everyone who's been watching all my YouTube videos. I really appreciate it. I'm going to continue uploading. Soon, I'll have some more meet prep videos coming for you. I hope you guys enjoy those, and I will see all of you in the next one. Peace.